Lisa, hi, welcome to the Female Startup Club podcast.
Hello, I am so happy to be here. Finally.
I am so happy to be here finally after a few scheduling mishaps. I don't know if we'd even call them mishaps, just missing each other.
Chaos. It's all good. But we are here now, so I'm really excited.
We're here now. Are you in New York at the moment?
Yes. So I'm in our office.
Did it snow today?
Who said that? That might be a piece of misinformation. It is sunny and nice outside.
Or yesterday? Did it snow yesterday?
It was cold, but no, I don't think it snowed. There was a bad rainstorm though. And maybe maybe it snowed upstate. I don't know. But at least by my apartment, it was a horrible rainstorm.
Fake news. I got told that it was snowing.
That misinformation will get you. It'll get you.
Misinformation will get you, and here I am passing it on. Damn it. So no snow. But I love that for you because it should be nice weather. Holy moly, it's really sunny here in London, and I am just like a whole other human when the sun is out. And it's like, we're starting to reemerge, and I'm like, oh, goodness, this is so good.
I literally saw this tweet recently that was like, the vibe, or no, it was a TikTok. It was someone saying like the vibe in New York is absolutely unmatched when the sun starts coming out. Like it is unmatched. People, and I'm sure in London it is incredibly similar because I feel like London and New York have similar, like there's a dreary time and then there's a very happy sunny time.
Yeah. There's depression, followed by depression, followed by like more depression. And then there's like the pub. And everyone is out in the whole of the UK at the pub.
Exactly. That's amazing. Well, my sister is heading to London, I think in the next week or two. So I'm sure she will feel that as well.
Oh my God, please tell her to hit me up so we can do something I can show her around.
Oh yeah, she is super sweet. So I'm sure she's gonna have a good time too.
Amazing. Well, let's jump into it. I would love to start by getting you to give us a bit of the elevator pitch. What is your brand? What's the ethos behind it? Who are you?
Yeah, so I'm Lisa. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Experiment, a chemist-led brand building the next generation of science-backed beauty for the future consumer. High level, Experiment makes unexpected essentials that are science-driven, thoughtfully sustainable, and ridiculously fun. The first product that we actually launched is called Avant Garde, which is a fun and functional reusable sheet mask that completely replaces the need for single-use sheet masks entirely. It's this bright lime green color that you may or may not have seen on social media, and it is super shareable, and it replaces something that is really wasteful, which is single-use sheet masks. I think a lot of people listening to this podcast probably have used a sheet mask. Creates a small mountain of unrecyclable trash next to you every time you use it. And over time, I just felt like I don't really want to use these anymore. And I really want an alternative. And Avant Garde really was that. It's a silicone mask that you put on top of any of your favorite skincare, and it creates a custom masking experience. And it honestly works even better than a single-use sheet mask. So that's Experiment. That's their first product.
I'm obsessed. It's so cool. For anyone who hasn't seen it, I am sure that's how I discovered you, was on social media, because how else? And I love you say that, you specifically kind of did that cool, bright, like shareable moment. And you thought about that in your product design. Like, yeah, how do I get people to share about this? How do I make it social and put that kind of like in that R&D process? But before we go down that pathway, because it's a whole other pathway, I love to always just like kind of go back to the beginning. What was getting you interested in this? I know that you were like a chemical engineer, no, or something like that. Yeah, you were in that vibe.
Oh, in that vibe, yes. I wanted to be a chemical engineer, but so a little, even going further back, and I am definitely going to send you this video because I think you're going to get a kick out of it. When I was 12, like I've always loved beauty ever since I was a kid. When I was 12, I got a pink camcorder for Hanukkah, and I started filming YouTube videos on it. XO Lisa Rose XO. Give me those views. They're still public. But it is
Oh my
12-year-old
God.
me giving anti-aging tips. I was telling people to wear sunscreen. I've been on this flow my whole damn life.
You manifested this.
I manifested it. But so I've loved beauty my whole life. I've loved science my whole life. My dad really cultivated that love of science in me, and chemistry was just a science that I instantly, when I started learning it, like Loved, I got it. A lot of people, chemistry is the hard thing for me. Bio is the hard thing. So loved chemistry. Decided to major in it in college because I basically was like, chemistry is the coolest science and beauty is powered by science. Like I had really bad cystic acne. So I was constantly deep in the Reddit thread when I was in high school and college of like how to help my cystic acne. So I was a very like early educated beauty consumer from the get-go. And so I did my bachelor's in chemistry. And during that time, I was working in labs. And honestly, Faith, like I really want to do cosmetics, but I didn't tell anybody because one time I told a guy in physics that I wanted to work in cosmetics. And he was literally like, so you want to make lipstick for the rest of your life? And I was literally like, okay, I'm not telling anyone ever again. Literal eye roll. But, I was still very interested. And so I decided to actually do my senior thesis. I had to like do a 40-page thesis. And I decided to write it on something that really bothered me in beauty. I know it's too much writing, too much writing. It was a traumatizing time.
Slides, decks, I'm not there. I'm not that person.
It's a lot. And so I decided to write on something I really cared about in beauty that I saw was becoming more of an issue, which is misinformation in beauty and how the natural beauty movement and the clean beauty movement affected consumer purchasing behavior. So I did my thesis on something called chemophobia in the beauty industry. So chemophobia is fear of chemicals, and there's a really interesting history behind it, but it's basically like the idea that chemicals or chemically sounding things are like scary or bad, and people essentially it's a fear of the unknown, right? But from a chemical perspective, and as a chemistry student, that meant a lot to me because I knew that like, okay, just because something sounds scary, especially in chemistry, doesn't mean literally anything. Even some of the most dangerous chemicals in the world can have a dose that is perfectly safe. And so, dose makes the poison is what we say in chemistry a lot. This movement in beauty that was around like natural and clean and like totally cool if you use those products, but the marketing behind them was actually quite misleading on the science front. And so I wrote about that and how it changed consumer behavior. And with that sparked my first business idea, which was a ingredient translator app. And I ended up starting a whole business right out of college.
That is so cool. Does it still exist?
Um, is our website still up? I don't even know. But I did this for like 2 years. So I was trying to go to grad school. I had my famous year stint in grad school doing chemical engineering. And I wanted to work for L'Oreal, but like I went through to a hackathon with this startup idea, ended up winning, and kind of the rest is history type of thing. It was called See Through. I did it for like 2-ish years. We went through Sephora Accelerate in 2019 with See Through. And then I also won an Future of Beauty Award for that work in ingredient transparency. And at the time, I was like 23. Even though we had some good success that we launched with a few brands, it was basically like an app that you install into your Shopify that made your ingredients list transparent or clickable. So as consumers are shopping, they could know what all those scary chemical sounding ingredients were in your products. And it was to essentially help educate consumers because that's really the antidote to misinformation education. Yeah, so I did that for about 2 years, just kind of realized B2B life was not for me. Sales, I was good at sales, but like it's just not what I wanted to do. And every single brand I interacted with, I was like, here's how you can do it better. Here's how you can do your marketing better. You guys should really consider like dropping clean. And nobody wanted to hear that from me at all. So I realized, okay, I really need to work on the brand side. I ended up joining Apostrophe, which was a teledermatology company, as their head of brand at 24, youngest person in leadership, only woman. And my whole job was to switch their marketing towards this consumer that I've basically been studying my whole life, which is the skin intellectual, the consumer that wants to know the science behind their products, that was like me, that wanted to know how their beauty products worked and how to pick the best products for their skin from a scientific lens. And so successfully did that for about a year and a half. And we got acquired by Hims, which was really cool. And I left shortly after. But kind of in tandem, in parallel with that, starts the story of Experiment, where at Sephora Accelerate, actually, I met my current co-founder. She was a cosmetic chemist at Benefit Cosmetics. She'd been in the industry for years on both like the manufacturing side and the formulation side. And we just really saw eye to eye on what was coming in beauty. Like what we really saw was like on one side, you had this clean, misinformation driven like movement in beauty that's really fueled by like people's desires to find products that they trusted. And then on the flip side, you had all these like really cool brands and fun brands that didn't have much substance. And then on like there's like three sides to this. And then on the last side, we both saw like the science-backed beauty movement start to take hold. So we call this science-backed beauty 1.0. These are brands like The Ordinary, The Inky List, CeraVe, Paula's Choice, brands that honestly paved the way for consumer education, for more consumers to be interested in products and ingredients. But they all felt really one note. The aesthetics were very, very similar. They were very serious. They didn't like make science like exciting particularly. Like they did a lot of education work for sure. But like we felt like the future of science-backed beauty was fun, accessible, something that anybody could get into, not just like a niche group on the internet, right? Something that, you know, was colorful and essentially branded science the way that we as chemists saw it, something that was a weird world of like nearly magic, right? Like chemistry can like literally change change one thing into another, like seemingly magically, right? Like that's really cool. Like, why are we talking about how cool that is? Oh, it's so cool. And that's why I love chemistry. And so, you know, we really saw eye to eye and we got talking. And early on in my days at Apostrophe, I was marketing towards more of the millennial consumer, the millennial intellectual. But what I was more interested in was people like me and younger who grew up learning about beauty on the internet. So these are like Gen Z intellectuals. So they're not just concerned about efficacy. They want a brand to have it all. They want a brand to have a sustainability story. They want them to have aesthetics that they feel like are shareable and that they could vibe with and that they want to be a part of. And they want to be part of more than just like a brand that works at the end of the day. They want to be part of something that they feel connected to emotionally. And we felt like just the science-backed brands were not giving that. And so we felt strongly that we wanted to create something of our own. And that's how Experiment started.
Whoa. I mean, whoa. There's a lot here.
It's a saga.
There's a lot.
Also, in between that, it's hard because like I was doing a lot at once, and I'm like, I need to like stop doing so many things at once. But I also like during the pandemic, I started a TikTok around beauty science, and that also just helped fuel this like notion that like Gen Z was different. Like we knew that like we could present science in a way that was like fun and TikTokable, shareable. So now I have like a following.
Oh my God, I haven't seen your personal TikTok. I've only seen your brand TikTok. Shut the front door. I'm going to have to obviously search you afterwards. This is so bizarre that I haven't seen it.
I have a little over 60,000 followers, people who are just like really interested in beauty science. And that's really cool because like this community used to be so much smaller, but now because of TikTok, I feel like the interest in like, does this thing really work? Is this actually BS? Like, is the marketing trying to pull the wool over my eyes? Like, these are things that like Gen Z is asking, like 100%. Like, they want the receipts.
I mean, 100%. We want to know, we want the reviews. We want the reviews on brands. We want to call out the brands that are not doing the right thing. Well, not even not doing the right thing, but like educate people on what this means and what that means. But that is so cool. Holy moly. I want to start just more online with like, where did you get the idea for Avant-Garde? Because it's so cool. And you're like, this is so much fun. And also, how come this didn't already exist? And like, just what's the like brainstorm dreaming process of you guys like sitting down being like, what's our first product going to be? Like, what's it going to look like, you know?
Yeah. So like it's funny, like Emmy and I sat down, me and my co-founder sat down and we were like, okay, we know this brand has to exist, but like what would be the first product? And we really felt strongly that we wanted to bootstrap this launch. We were both at separate jobs at the time and we only had essentially like, you know, what was in our bank account and we didn't have much. We're not wealthy founders. We're not people that come from money. Like we just had like whatever we had in our savings.
What are we talking? What are we talking?
I'll give you the number. So all in all, we spent 80. I'll give you the number right now. All in all, we spent of our own money $8,500 on the launch, which is very low. And I'll get into like how we did that. We're very scrappy. My claim to fame is that I am scrappy, and that's what I did with my first startup. I could barely raise any capital at all. So like so you got to get very creative very quickly. And I didn't have any like connections to VC or anything like that in my first startup. So like, you know, very much like learning by doing. And so we were like, okay, skincare is an expensive endeavor. Like formulating a skincare product is hard. But I remember in my apartment, I had this what was called, like in Japan, it's a sheet mask holder. So it's meant to go on top of a single use sheet mask to just like hold it in place. Cause like when you're sheet masking, like everything's just sliding around and you're not actually relaxing. You're more just like very stiff.
Yeah, you're tense. Everything else is droopy.
Yeah, my neck is like tense. Like when I'm doing a single use sheet mask, it's like horrible, honestly. But I had this sheet mask holder because I'm like, ooh, this will solve all my problems. One day I was like, looked at it and I'm like, wait a minute, do I actually need this sheet mask? Because I know that like the way sheet masks work, single use sheet masks, like the cotton ones, is that at any of them, they're soaked in serum, they're material soaked in serum. And the reason people love them so much is because they work via what's called occlusion. It basically means that it's keeping the serum really close to the skin. And they do that through this cotton material or whatever material. It's keeping that serum on your skin and essentially force feeding it to your skin. And that's what occlusion is. And I looked at that and I know silicone is a perfectly occlusive material, meaning that there's very like nothing escapes out of it. Like if it's covering something, nothing will evaporate off. So I looked at it and I'm like, wait, I think we can use this with just a serum. Like you don't need a sheet mask underneath it. And so I tried it one day and I was like, Emmy, this really works. And so she tried it, she got one. And we were just like, wait, this really works. But there was a ton of issues. The material was really stiff. It was ugly. It was like this like pink kind of fleshy kind of color that just, it did not look right. And the sizing was just like, it's funny, like I have what we call a small head. Emmy has a big head, and on Emmy, like it was very tight on her ears and it was uncomfortable to wear, so she wouldn't want to wear it for long term. And the material was really stiff, not stretchy. So we started doing some digging. Literally, we went to Alibaba, started doing digging, saw a lot of these masks, hit up a bunch of different manufacturers to see if we can get something better. It started from there. So we found a manufacturer. We made some changes to the product. We added sizing. We changed the color. We changed the material to be more stretchy. It was a little serendipitous on how that happened. They actually sent us like not the wrong mask, but it was different than the sample they sent us. And we actually ended up liking it so much more. So we're just like, yes, this. But what was really intentional was around the color specifically. We made it this bright lime green color because we wanted to lean into the humor of wearing this mask. There was no way we could make it pretty and like clean and gorgeous and serene like every other beauty brand. And we were like, experiment is all about like literally experimenting, having fun, not taking yourself too seriously. And so we leaned into literally the memeability and the humor of the mask. And we knew that that acid green color had meme potential. It was going to be shareable. People would think it's hilarious as long as you own it. You got to own it. And so that's what we did. And so we really felt strongly that this product was something we could make a hero because, we knew that sheet masks were essentially on the cancellation train. Makeup wipes, have been on the outs. They're bad for the planet. Anything single use is not, great. So we knew that single use sheet masks were next on the chopping block. And they're actually worse than makeup wipes because they each come individually wrapped with stuff that is completely unrecyclable and plastic. So it just goes straight into the garbage. Yeah. So we just knew that was a solution that if we leaned into it and if we owned it and we really like put our effort into it, and made it cool and made it shareable and made it funny, we could actually build like a pretty cool organic like marketing moment as like making avant-garde the billboard of the product. And in terms of the name, it's funny, like looking back, like we had no idea what to name this thing. The whole time we were just calling it the mask. And then Emmy like put down a bunch of names and like we glazed over avant-garde at first. I'm like, it's not clear enough. And then eventually we came back around and we're like, wait a minute. It's like the perfect name. Our name is literally experiment. Avant-garde is literally like the way it's properly spelled is like an experimental art movement. Like this is literally perfect. Yeah, that's how we got to the product. We started like as a single product, but we knew the brand was going to be like so much more. Like the philosophy that we started with was so strong that we knew like this is a great place for us to bootstrap and start because this product is not super expensive to produce. But from there, with the profits, we can like we're two chemists. Like Emmy would formulate a serum to go with it or another product. So that was kind of the path that we had laid out in our heads at the time.
Before we go on, I just want to like ask about protecting your brand because I'm wondering, is it something that you have been able to kind of, protect the IP and patent and things like that? Or are you facing or have already faced, copycat kind of movement in what you're doing? I'm wondering around that like protection kind of side of things.
Yeah. So for our first launch, we knew there were going to be copycats. Like that was just kind of like, we just felt there was something about the vibe of the brand even before we launched. We were like, this is going to be great. There have been other sheet masks that come out of the market. But what's interesting is that I know where all of those were created. They're all kind of like off the shelf. They didn't make any changes. It's more of a merchy item for a lot of brands. No one's owning it or trying to own it. Whereas like we were the first to truly like own that as like a hero product. That alone creates a little bit of a moat. And we also had such a strong community already built up around the product. So like community, owning things like that does create a brand moat. And definitely in the learning lessons category of this, we can get into that story. But we've been sold out for a long time and we're heading into relaunch. And after our first soft launch run to essentially test whether or not this was a product that people wanted, we went back to the drawing board and redesigned the product. And now it is actually patent pending in terms of design. So we are also legally protected now. But before we just were going off of brand moat vibes. That's what we were going for.
Got it. Yeah, you've got to start somewhere, got to like get the vibe out there and then protect yourself. I want to stick around though. I feel like we've still moved a little bit further forward and I want to stick around the launch. So you had $8,500 to invest in like getting this product correct and like right. How many, like what was the MOQ that you were able to order is my first question and then we'll go on from there.
Yeah, for the soft launch, we had 2,000 masks. We ordered 2,000 masks. Boy, oh boy, was that chaos. So we didn't do a good job at vetting our manufacturer. Like they gave us a great product, which was like, we got really lucky in terms of that. But like the quality control, we had no idea about like QA. Like we didn't know anything. We ended up having to hand inspect, hand clean, and hand pack all of our masks in our apartment for every order. And we look back on this and we laugh and we're like, but it was a monumental effort. And it was really, really hard to do. But we ended up having to toss almost like, or reject rather, like we didn't toss it, but reject rather, I think it was like 30% of our inventory, which really, really sucked out of that order. So I think in total we had about 1,300 masks or 1,500 masks that were viable. That was really hard. But again, like learning lessons, like we didn't know what we were doing at all. But our goal is just like, okay, cool, this is a good product. Like we'll do whatever it takes to make sure it gets into the hands of consumers.
What happens in that scenario? Like, does the like manufacturer kind of take responsibility and send you new ones, or do they refund you, or do you have insurance, or is it just like a loss and you have to cut your losses?
So we had to take that loss because again, like we didn't set clear manufacturing guidelines. We were just like, yeah, like this looks good. Like we didn't truly like we were just kind of going for it. So we did have to take that loss. The manufacturer again that we were working with, there's a reason we ended up cutting ties with them. They weren't really the best or most communicative. I think on Alibaba, a lot of brands should be aware of like trade companies. These are people that are not actually manufacturers, but they're like almost like the middleman between the actual manufacturers of products and they try to source stuff for you, but like they pretend like they're the manufacturer. So it can be really confusing to know who you're actually talking to.
I
And
didn't
we
know
were in
that.
that kind of situation.
That is crazy.
And yeah,
How do you figure that out?
oh my God. We just kind of like over the course of the interactions, like as stuff like when we were like, hey, this order's not right, or like whatever, we just realized like, oh, we're not talking to a manufacturer. We got a friend of a friend who knows Alibaba like sourcing, who he's now an investor, got Alibaba sourcing. Like he was like, yeah, this is a trade company, like for sure. It's definitely like something I think a lot of brands should watch out for. It doesn't mean every trade company is bad. It's just like it gets more and more opaque, right, as the layers like of people between you and the actual manufacturer are. Someone who's really good at manufacturing, like with Alibaba and like finding the right people is Kiramoon, Lindsay, the founder of Kiramoon. She is so good at that. But we were not at the time, but we got very lucky.
Yeah, you still had that 1,500 to launch with. Still good.
Yeah, we still had it. Yeah, and we were just kind of like we were really like doing it as we went, right? So it was definitely just that kind of vibe.
Okay, so now I actually want to talk about the launch and how did you sell those 1,500 units? Like, if you had to just break it down into like, this is what we did we spend any money to acquire, or was it all organic? But like, this is what we did to sell those units and like the impact around that.
We didn't spend a dime on marketing. And the reason we didn't was because we were bootstrapped. We were very, very limited funds. And we both, again, had separate jobs. And we were really just trying to see like how far could we take this. Like the photo shoot that we did was like my friends got together, like we pulled in, it was in my apartment. Like it was fun. Like looking back on it, it was definitely really disorganized and like very ragtag. But yeah, we didn't spend any money on marketing. The way we kicked it off was a few ways. So I was a TikToker. I'm a TikToker. So like obviously did a launch post. That launch post did really well, and then got my friends involved as well on TikTok. So I sent, I believe, 7 or 8 of my TikTok friends who are in skincare, like, hey, we're launching this product. Would love for you to try it. Like, and if you can support us on launch day, that would be amazing. And they all did. They all were like so generous and like posted about it on launch day, and that really helped a lot. And a lot of them just love the product too. A lot of them still use the original mask like a year later to this day because it gives them like just they're like, no, this is a really good product. So TikTok is definitely one bucket of how we were able to organically acquire customers. The next bucket would be brand collaboration. So on our launch day, we also collaborated with a different skincare brand because our product paired well with other products, so other serums, moisturizers. So for launch day, we partner with Topicals, and in that partnership, we did a giveaway as well as a set that we sold on our site with their Like Butter mask. So it's called the Butter and Bake set. So we sold that on launch day as well, and that sold out in 10 hours, which was really exciting for a new brand. Like we didn't have a lot of followers. We had less than 1,000 followers. Like it wasn't like we didn't spend any money on the launch either. Like for something to sell out in 10 hours was really cool. That giveaway also that went live on both of our pages on launch day put our visibility up a lot because part of that giveaway, to have an extra entry, you have to post to your stories. You post the giveaway post to your stories. And our product packaging for Avant Garde actually has someone wearing Avant Garde on the packaging, kind of like magazine like. And because of that very visual packaging, people immediately knew what it was. So they got really, really excited by it. And we got a ton of visibility that day just from that giveaway and stories. So that was super helpful in just getting us in front of as many people as possible. And a really big influencer actually like organically ordered the product. We saw like his name in our Shopify and we like freaked out. So that was really cool as well. Cause he said he saw us on stories or something. Someone posted about us.
Oh my God, that's so cool.
Yeah. So the brand collaborations, the TikToks, that was really, really helpful. And then obviously the last bucket is just the nature of the product. The nature of the product is very shareable, is memorable. When we were raising our round, our pre-seed round, even investors were like, I feel like I've seen this somewhere, like on Instagram, maybe. Like I remember seeing this green mask and it's us. And that's what's really cool is that it's very memorable. It's kind of a weird product and it sticks in your brain. Just the nature of the product also sells itself, and a lot of consumers once they got the product wanted to take a selfie in it, wanted to show it off. So naturally, that also just leads to more sales.
100%. I totally get it. You're making something memorable. You've got a moment, like a real moment happening online. I love that for you. Holy moly. So you sell out. When do you sell out? What's our timeline at the moment?
Yeah, so our timeline for that, and we were doing this part-time, didn't put any marketing money into it. We sold out, I believe, in a few months. So we had 2 sizes of the mask. So for small heads and big heads, our small size was more popular and it sold out even March, so a few months after launch. And then our larger size sold out in May. Once the small size, the sales started slowing down. And we were also trying to figure out like, how do we get more of this product? So there was a lot of like behind the scenes stuff we were trying to figure out because we didn't expect it like necessarily to pop off that way. And so we were trying to figure out like, oh, this is a real business. Okay, like let's get our stuff together.
Test is done, like approved, concept approved. Concept proven, rather.
Like the reason we were also scrambling is that 2 months after we launched, I believe in January, Urban Outfitters DM'd us and they wanted to carry us in store. So we were trying to figure out how to get more. And that's, again, a separate learning lesson. But it was definitely like we were gaining traction pretty quickly. And we're like, oh my God, we could launch nationwide in Urban Outfitters like in the next few months. Like we have to be ready for something like that. So we were figuring a lot of stuff out at the time.
Oh my gosh. And so, like, what do you do? What do you do from then till now? Obviously, you're gearing up for the 2.0 launch. There's about a year in the middle here. Well, a bit less, 10 months in the middle. What is this 10 months been to you? What have you been doing?
So when we sold out, we were basically, I think it was in April when we were almost sold out, that we had ordered more masks from our manufacturer to launch into Urban Outfitters. So Urban Outfitters gave us a really big PO. It was one of the bigger POs that they would give small brands. They wanted to do a nationwide rollout, which was like real, no test stores, just like every store, like in I believe North America and online. So it was a lot.
What's an order like that?
It was not like crazy like target numbers or anything, but it was definitely like a lot for us. We had to do a new order. And so when we ordered those masks, I remember getting a call, so like 4 missed calls from my co-founder who was in North Carolina at our co-packer that we were using for this order. And frantic calls at like 5 o'clock in the morning. When I wake up and I call her back, I'm like, what's happening? She's like, I opened the box and the masks are completely wrong. And it was like truly disaster scenario. It was like a day before we were supposed to ship out to Urban Outfitters. And all we had to do was pack up the masks and ship them. And they were the completely wrong material. Which was like critical to like how successful this mask was because it was so much more comfortable than, kind of the other ones on the market that were like, plasticky.
Was it the same manufacturer or a totally new second manufacturer?
So that's where we started understanding, is this a trade company? Because it was the same people we were talking to, but it's clear they were sourcing it from somewhere else at that point. And when we asked them about it, they were like, oh, it's the same thing. We just used a different mold. Like they gave us very weird answers, and it wasn't kosher. So we tried to order. We asked them, can you please send us in the right material? So we showed them our material, which is more opaque and like much softer and stretchier. And then they sent another order, and this time it was the right material, but the wrong shape of the mask. It was a very weird shape. It didn't fit at all. It was like, we cannot sell this. And so after so much back and forth,
How
they
deflating.
stonewalled us. Yeah, it was so deflating. They stonewalled us.
What? Oh my
And
God.
yeah, and it was bad.
How do you deal with Urban Outfitters? Do you have to be like, please don't hate us for the future, but like, we're a new brand?
Yeah, no, but essentially, so to Urban Outfitters' credit, they were incredibly understanding. And, we kind of just were honest. We were honest with them about what happened, and that we were working to fix it. And when the fix didn't work, they sent us the wrong thing again. And they stonewalled us and said that they threw out our molds, which was very weird. Yeah, it was a very weird, it was clear that this was like, we didn't vet them correctly. We had to cut ties with them completely, which was scary, but we had already been in the process of like working with consumers to take feedback on the mask and like redesign it to like fit better. And so we were already in that process. We were like, okay, we just have to stick to that process. And so we had to tell Urban Outfitters like, the story. And we're like, when we're ready, like we would absolutely love to like do this again. And they were super understanding. So in the 10 months that we've been sold out, we've been redesigning the mask with an industrial design partner. And then, they found us a manufacturer in the US, which is very hard to do for this product because it's kind of hard to manufacture. But we were able to do it. We found a manufacturer, and we were also raising capital.
That's amazing.
Yeah, no, it was a lot of work, but it ended up working out. And we also filed a patent for that design, and like it came out really, really awesome. And so we also, raised capital during that time, which helped a lot in terms of like keeping us afloat. Originally, I was more on the fence about raising capital because of my previous experience at my previous startup. It was really hard for me as like a 22-year-old female with no connections, like to run around and try to find capital. So I was a little traumatized from that experience. And so I didn't want to do it again. But I just felt so strongly that like, okay, if we can just get through this, like there is something to experiment. There's an essence to experiment that I feel really strongly about, and that we think this can be big. And so I started pitching investors. And so fast forward to like the end of last year, we were, gearing up for a pilot run for our masks. Like things were looking up. We were building a wait list, and we finished raising $1 million. So we raised 1 million pre-seed, and we have some really great investors who are super excited about the idea of like a Gen Z, like science-backed beauty company that like was actually like looking at beauty very differently and like representing like a beauty brand in a very like unique and disruptive way that like they were super excited. So having that capital raise also felt really empowering because then we actually had the money to like now invest in this launch and hire people and get the help that we needed.
Holy moly. Congratulations. That is amazing. What a journey. The launch is tomorrow, but by the time this airs, it'll be a few weeks ago. How have you been preparing for this launch second time around? What are the key kind of things you're doubling down on?
Yeah, so learned a lot from our first launch in terms of like how powerful your community is just in general. So like for this launch, we built up a wait list, which we didn't really have before. We built up a wait list. We expanded our influencer community. I mean, these are personal relationships. These are friends. These are, we're lucky to kind of have this. Not every brand out the gate has these kinds of influencer relationships. One of our investors is an OG skincare influencer, Leah Yu. So having these kinds of connections is really, really helpful. So we have a lot more influencer muscle. We still aren't spending, any marketing money yet. Like the lesson we learned is that organic is really resilient. We had been sold out for a year and we still have a really great community. And that I think speaks to a lot about the value of like true organic engagement. Not to say that paid is not in our future. It absolutely will be and must be, but we want to build organically as much as we can. So doubling down on our influencer community and our community in general, building a wait list. That email list is like super critical in terms of like just getting sales, out the gate. We are doing some PR this time around as well. We have better design that's more scalable this time around. Did a lot of branding projects. Still the green, still the green. That's absolutely iconic. Still keeping that same essence of experiment. I think like that is something that was tough in this past few months. Like when you finally raise capital, like you kind of want to like spend it on something like that you couldn't do before. Like you almost get a little spendy, but it's good, like in a sense, like because you feel like, oh my god, finally, like I have money. Especially if you were bootstrapped before, it's a very different feeling. And we spent money on like branding projects and all of these things. And eventually we just realized like the essence of experiment. We were really pretty damn close at first. We were just doing it ourselves. Like we didn't have any designers or anything like, branding agency behind our first launch. So, but this time we did get some help, more professional help, especially on the photo shoot front. So got really creative there.
I mean, your website is also like 10 out of 10. I love your website.
Website. Thank you. Thank you. Our website, yes. So like we invested specifically in like
It's slick.
Oh, thank you. We invested specifically in like website photography, these things that really do like tell our brand story better. But in terms of like Instagram, it's still pretty lo-fi. And like, I think that's to our advantage as well. Again, back to the organic piece. I learned through the previous launch, like one message that really stuck with me was someone in our DMs was like, what I love about your Instagram, and this was not like an influencer or anything. This was just someone who followed us. Like, what I love about your Instagram is that I feel like I could see myself on it. And to me, that like made me feel so deeply good inside because I think, having cystic acne, like knowing like without makeup, my skin is not like crystal clear, perfect. Like so many even beauty founders, like sometimes I get self-conscious or I'm like, oh my God, I'm a beauty founder and my skin isn't clear. What am I doing? Or I'm a beauty influencer and my skin isn't clear. But, just having someone say that, like that they feel like they can see themselves on our Instagram means a lot because like I think most beauty Instagrams tend to not really feel like you belong on there. It's much more polished. And if it fits your brand vibe, absolutely. But like I think there's a lot of power in people feeling like they can truly identify with your brand and like feel comfortable. So, again, this time around, like we're keeping that same vibe. Like that doesn't change. Like our voice doesn't change, right? It's really that we're just taking what we started with and like amplifying it 10 times.
Totally. Totally. Just elevating it a smidge to a different direction of the same, but slick. Exactly.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh, that is so cool. I'm so excited to follow along tomorrow. I think it's going to be such a big hit. Well, I mean, we obviously know it's going to be a big hit, of course. But I'm going to be cheering for you and shouting about you on social media myself, of course. Before we jump into the 6 quick questions, I always love to ask, what is your key piece of advice for beauty entrepreneurs who are, building a brand, early stages in 2022?
Have a really unique perspective and own it. Own it, own it, own it. Beauty is one of the most crowded categories of consumer products. And, I don't think that's necessarily a detriment. Like, I think there's room for so many brands. Like, we all, like, who has one brand in their medicine cabinet? Nobody. We all have different brands that play well together. So there's both like a lot of white space and it's incredibly crowded. But the way you actually gain market share is having a unique perspective and really sticking with it. So for Experiment, that's kind of our view of science-backed beauty, right? Is that we like the absurdity, the fun, leaning into it, and sticking with our guns and our principles. So like our next products that come out, we'll be very focused on the science behind them, and I can't give too much away.
Any teasers? Anything you want to drop there?
There will be a serum as our next launch in the summer. We're already dropping lab samples to some influencers, and we will be doing like a public lab drop for our entire community as well. So really excited about that. But the serum is next. That I can say. Details about it I can't share. It is going to be really focused on the science. So like that's my biggest piece of advice is just like really have a unique perspective. Like try to carve out a unique perspective for yourself that like other beauty brands just aren't hitting on. Even if it's small, like it can really resonate if you just like wedge in there.
Ooh, I love that. To everyone listening, wedge. Find the wedge. Wedge in there. Find your wedgie.
Wedge in there. You can have a wedgie. So yeah, like that's absolutely true. I love it.
Thank you so much. Let's get into the 6 quick questions. I'm conscious of the time, so I want to like jump into these now. As you know, because you've listened to the show before, we might have covered some of these, but I asked them all the same. So question number 1 is, what's your why? Why are you doing what you're doing?
Because I really believe that beauty needs to rebrand science and make it cool and fun and accessible. Like it is pretty stale out there right now. And I think Experiment will make it so much more vibrant and make science more accessible to a wider audience of people rather than just like kind of the more niche but still large skintellectual community.
I'm like just gonna stray like from the 6 question like thing for a second, but like, are you doing live shopping on TikTok and like live kind of selling? I feel like you need like a talk show of like beauty and science and like super fun, like educating platform.
So that's part of our TikTok strategy. So we really want to have a strong TikTok strategy around like the combination of beauty science and like weird, wonderful world, like kind of like the Bill Nye of beauty vibes.
Exactly. That's what I was thinking. We're on the same planet, you and I. We're on the same planet.
Wavelength. It's there. And on that why, like just a little bit, like doing all of that creates a situation where like I feel strongly that consumers will tune into like the science and tune out misinformation and like greenwashing, right? Like if you make science accessible and cool and fun, like everybody's going to listen because who doesn't like stuff that's cool, accessible and fun? So, it's just really like accessibility creates like a lot of opportunity.
Absolutely. Gosh. Question number 2, what has been your favorite marketing moment so far?
I know. James Walsh, he is the influencer I talked about that organically purchased our product in our launch week. New Year's Day of 2021, dropped a video where it's like the 4 brands you need to watch out for this year. And it was us, Topicals, Dew Skin, and I believe Teco Skin. And it was a huge moment because we got a huge sale boost and it was just so genuine. And he, to this day, absolutely loves the product. He's supporting our launch. Like, he is a super fan of avant-garde, and it was just huge moment. And like I remember sitting on New Year's Day, like eating breakfast, and like we had a little champagne and we just go ding. Like it was truly amazing, like to see that video.
Great start to the year. Amazing. Question number 3, go to business resource when it comes to a book, a podcast, or a newsletter.
So I am like a newsletter girl. So I do actually love the Female Startup Club newsletter. And plug. But also I love reading a bunch of different marketing newsletters because there's so much to learn about marketing. And I am a self-taught marketing person. I definitely think like I've always liked it and had a knack for it, but I have a chemistry degree. I don't have like a marketing or MBA degree. So, I read like Nick Sharma's newsletter a lot. He always has a ton of like cool insights in there. And I read up a lot on business of fashion, around what's going on in the industry. Glossy Pop. Shout out to Sarah, who is my good friend, but she's also the writer of Glossy Pop newsletter. Amazing for trend watching. Totally obsessed with it. One of my favorites.
Love. Going to link them in the show notes. I am a big fan of both of those newsletters. Very cool. Question number 4, how do you win the day? What are your AM and PM rituals and habits that keep you feeling happy and successful and motivated?
Oh, I'm totally candid. That is my biggest place of growth that I need help with. And I wish I had a better answer for this, but I will say like just some of the things I can turn to. The more unhealthy side is just scrolling through TikTok if I need to calm down a little bit. But like, and TikTok is also like a place of inspiration for me as well. Like, so I enjoy doing that. But I'd also say just spending time with my partner, and us making a meal. So like if I need a break, and like it's dinner time and I'm like, oh, I just need to keep going. I need to keep working. We'll actually stop and like if we can cook something together, like just for 30 minutes, it really just resets a little bit. And that has been like really nice. Just like sit down, watch a meal, maybe watch a video, just talk. And then, we'll start the night shift, right? So that's been, really helpful in terms of just grounding myself and centering myself, especially because like, I have a tendency to get anxious, and having that, forcing function of like making dinner together has been really great, good for the soul. And in terms of the morning, like I love the morning shower. I think it just kind of like helps wake me up, and I always have my coffee. Like that's my signal to the start of the day as I make an espresso in my beloved pandemic purchase espresso machine. And it definitely like signals to me that it's the start. And I go through all my newsletters, go through my inbox, and then I can start tackling like, larger things.
Love that. Love it. I also need to signal the start of my day with coffee, or else, I'm just not there.
Yep.
Yep. Question number 5, what has been your worst money mistake?
Boy. Besides like, the manufacturing stuff, it's a mistake anyone can make. I would say actually the biggest money mistake I made is spending too much on branding agencies. I think, similar to, we talked about this before, but, again, I always felt like I'm not a designer. I don't know what I'm doing, but I am a very creative person. And that's how we got Experiment to be so creative without any design help in the first place, or any like branding agency help. But when we raised funding, I'm like, okay, we can finally hire the branding agency of my dreams, and we can go for it and do it. And it's going to be amazing. Fast forward, we went through multiple different branding people, branding agencies, and we wasted a lot of money. I would say we wasted upwards of probably like almost like $60,000 to $80,000 on agencies. And as a startup who only raised $1 million, that's a lot of money. I'm like, I cannot discount how much money that really is, and it hurts. And like, of course, we'll all make a money mistake, and I'm very budget conscious, and I'm very money conscious rather, and like it pains me that we did that, but it was a huge learning lesson for me because I realized that like I needed to really truly understand like Experiment and how to explain Experiment, and the only person that can do that is me. I was just giving people vibes and gestures, and like, but it was never matching what was in my head, right? Like it was never matching what was in my head, and that was the biggest disappointment. Everyone went too cool or too like just classic Gen Z, bright, colors everywhere. And I wanted something that felt truly unique. And I'm so happy to say that I really finally feel like we're there. But, it essentially meant like, we never really truly finished strongly with anyone. It became like an in-house project, taking what some of the branding agencies did, and we were able to kind of take some of that and then bringing it in-house to finally finish it. And we're still, kind of redoing this process because in that time we've ordered packaging, we've ordered lots of different things. So I would say like, the learning lesson for me there is, trust your gut and your brand intuition. Like if you have strong brand intuition, like lean into that. That's not for everyone, of course. Like branding agencies can be amazing for some people, but I found that for me, I had too strong of a point of view for a branding agency to truly work. And when our first hire was a designer. She is so much more than a designer. She's truly like jack of all trades, like the scrappiest, perfect startup person ever, does all things creative. And we sat down together and we're like, oh, none of this is, correct. So we brought it in house. So I would say just be cautious if you're going to hire a branding agency. Know why you're hiring that branding agency. It is hard to pick people and it's hard to truly know who gets your vision. So like try to vet as much as you can.
Gosh, how many iterations do you go through?
Oh my God. One, two, three. We did have to let go of someone more due to, a bad situation, unprofessional situation, but the work was also like not there either. So, it would have probably happened anyway. But so we went through, I'd say like three and a half, situations. And it's one of those mistakes where I kept saying to myself, but I'm not a designer. This person will get it. This person will get it. And, I finally learned the lesson. It's like,
oh, story of my life.
yeah, like, no, wait, some lessons have to be taught to you over and over and over again, painfully, but like it has to happen. And, if I could do it all again, I'd probably do it differently. But it did lead me to this now confidence, true, like ironclad confidence I have in myself that I'm like, no, 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 no. Like, I really am the person that has to carry this forward. It's not just that I'm the CEO. I'm also like the essentially acting creative director at this point as well. And like I need to carry that torch forward. So that's the lesson I learned there.
I feel like all entrepreneurs go through that lesson. Last question. I'm conscious of time. Question number 6. What is just a crazy story you can share from the business? Good, bad, anything in between, a crazy story.
It's definitely like the fact that, when we ordered our first mask that we had to pack everything by hand and clean everything. It took a long time to inspect every mask and the inventory and just like the whole manufacturing debacle in general was definitely tough. Like we tried to come up with so many different ways on how to get back in stock and we decided to finally commit to like being out of stock. But vet your manufacturers, people. Vet your manufacturers so you don't end up like us. But of course it's working out for the better, but like it's definitely really stressful and crazy.
I don't know if it was you that said this on one of my like Instagram or Twitter or something, but like go and walk around your factory. Like you need to go there and you need to see the facility if you're going to like work with people in a big scale. I can't remember who said it, but someone was like, we were talking about manufacturing.
And that's one of the reasons why we switched to the US is that it was much easier for us to also do that and have full like eagle eye on the process. And so we actually did do that. We were able to go view our manufacturer. We set quality limits with them. So that was really awesome. But yes, vet your manufacturers, people. Do it.
Oh my gosh, Lisa, this was so much fun. I'm so excited for tomorrow. I'm going to be your hype girl on the side cheering for you. And I can't wait for you to come back and tell us how it all went in a couple of months.
Thank you so much. I am very excited and I'm excited to when this all comes out. So thank you so much, Dune.